And I'm live. Yes. Okay. Good morning. Saturday morning. It's kind of dull and dreary here in Harrisburg. Yesterday, actually, the last few days, it's been raining. What a surprise! Rain in Harrisburg. Yeah. Um, Shit happens. What can you say? So it's been an unusual week for me. And it's been an unusual week in that something happened to me, not a job. I've actually been contacted on a couple of jobs, but I'm not getting much in the way of follow through. It's just like, yeah, we got your resume, we're interested in you, and then it's like I don't hear anything after that. I have to figure that when it comes to the job market, people are first looking at my age and going, "Oh my God, this bitch is going to want $100,000, and we only want to pay her 50." And then somebody might do a little bit more digging and go, this person is trans. We really don't want this person in our office. And it goes without saying, but trans people are sometimes not viewed in the most favorable light. And I knew this going into this, so my goal now is if I can find some way of getting through until May of next year, I think I'm just going to start collecting Social Security. I figure I can collect, I think like $2,100. And by the time I end up paying taxes on that, it's like, I get to keep all but 500 of it. So it's like $1,600 a month, which doesn't work out to be a lot of money. But since my rent is being paid for by my pension, at least for like the next 10 years, I could probably get by on that. I mean, my car is paid for. I got to pay for insurance and stuff like that. And then after that, it's just food. And I find when I'm paying for myself, it's actually pretty cheap. So it's just getting to next May. It's going to be a pain in the ass. Yesterday, I had to get an oil change, and I had to have both my headlamps replaced because one finally burned out. After 183,000 miles, the original headlamp burned out. And even I said, change them both, because if one went, the other's going to go too. And then I actually have to take the car back in on Tuesday because I found out there's a part of my car that is broke, and it's probably been broke for a while. And that's going to be about $250, which I happen to have, but I think the thing that I'm going to end up having to do is file for bankruptcy when this is all said and done. Get that out of the way. Discharge a lot of my debts and concentrate on other things. But last Saturday was Pride. It was, as you know, I was in the Pride group. And this Tuesday coming up, we have recruitment night. I actually had a long discussion with a friend on Wednesday. Yeah, Wednesday. Someone who follows me on Facebook, and she may even be watching this video, who had some concerns about what it was like coming out for Derby. Are we a bunch of mean girls? Well, no, we're not. We don't wear pink on Wednesday, so you can sit at our table. And we don't laugh at people when they fall, mostly because we've all taken those falls and they hurt. The last thing we want to do is like fall and laugh at somebody because it's pretty fucked up. It is. I would feel very bad if someone laughed at me. I probably would be the first one to laugh at myself if it's like a stupid fall, like, oh, Jesus, I can't believe I did that. But something Derby related that went into, I guess you could say, a real learning lesson about myself. So let me set the stage. About a week and a half back, I had actually spoken with one of my coaches, Ariel, who's also my teammate. And, I was going through the normal it seems like once every 2 months, I'm like going through, should I continue? Should I stop? Should I go? Should I stop? Should I go? Should I stop? And she basically we had lunch and she spent a couple of hours kind of like talking me down, convincing me that, I should continue onward. I also had another friend at the same time, unbeknownst to her, who was peripherally associated with Derby, who told me the same thing, don't give up. Because why? But anyway, one of the things I had asked her about is, I said, I'd really love to go to some of these open scrimmages. And an open scrimmage is where people come from all over. It's not a league thing. It's generally speaking, it's what we call it's a black and white thing. You'll usually have one team wear, black scrimmage jerseys. You'll have another team wear white scrimmage jerseys. And then it's in black and white. And you pay for, coming out and doing this. And it's basically a bout. I mean, you have scorekeepers, you have penalty takers, it's all legit. It's just for bragging rights. And it's also for the opportunity to learn how to do stuff. So I had asked her, I said, I really would like to do this. She says, well, talk to Roxy. That's our head coach. So I talked to Roxy. And Roxy, at first, she said, well, it doesn't, I don't have a problem with it. She says, but I need to talk to the other coaches. I said, okay. So she said she was going to get back to me, and she didn't. There could be various reasons why. So won't pursue those. So on Wednesday night, since I hadn't heard anything, and our other two coaches were present, I, pulled each one of them aside, and I told them I spoke with Roxy on Monday about going to an open scrimmage this coming Sunday. And I want, she said she'd talk to you guys. I want a consensus of the coaching. Do you think I can do this? So I talked again to Ariel, and I also talked to Ida. And, they said, okay, we'll PM together. All of us will PM together and come up with a decision. So Thursday morning, I got my decision. It wasn't the decision I was hoping for. Let's just put it that way. I was told, no, you can't do this. And Ida had sent me a message, and she was very specific that there are 4 things that I am lacking in terms of certification. And she felt, as I'm sure probably everybody else in the coaching staff felt, that a couple of them could lead to dangerous situations in an open scrimmage, environment. And the things she pointed out was, one, my plows suck. She didn't put it quite that way, but it's like, I can't plow. And not being able to plow in a pack, which I've demonstrated I can't do, can be a problem. Because if everybody else is plowing and you're just continuing onward, it's kind of screwed up. It's neither here nor there whether that's done commonly. My plows blow. They do. And it does. It's true. She cited my knee taps, and I thought about that. I mean, I can do a knee tap. One of the things you have to do is you actually have to be able to tap twice, like go down on a knee and get back up, go down on a knee and get back up without breaking stride. I'm inconsistent in that. I can do it sometimes no, I can't. I'm weak on my right leg. If I go down on my left knee, my right leg is not as strong as my left leg. So I have to really like force the issue. In scrimmage situations, I've been hit and actually, not taken the hit very well. I mean, I can do it, but I'm getting better at it. But still, I'll take a hit and that's it. I'm like grabbing for somebody. And that comes from just not scrimmaging enough. And That's the only way you can learn that is by being in a scrimmage situation, which is why we do this at practice. And then lastly, of course, was my 27.5, which I have failed to do. So I got that, and I said, okay, thank you, no problem. And I left it at that. And she was like, we still want you to come and scrimmage with us as much as possible. We want you in the scrimmage pack so you can learn this stuff. I was like, okay, cool. Here's the interesting part. After that, I decided, well, I'm going to go get some groceries because I don't want to sit around the apartment and stew. Because, it was not the decision I was looking for. And it was fine. The interesting thing was I wasn't really pissed off about it. Part of me was kind of scared shitless about going into an open scrimmage situation. I'll be honest about that. It's like when I went to the Lazy Night Clinic. It's like, am I going to be able to hang with these women and, not make a complete fool of myself, which is also to say not make a fool of my league. You're sending this person down. She sucks. And the whole time when I was out at the grocery store, I kept going over and over the 4 points that had been pointed out. And I'm like, well, there's no lie there. Everything that was pointed out. Yeah, I either suck at it or I haven't done it or it's inconsistent. And it's shit I need to work on. It's stuff I need to do. And for too long, I've been saying that. I've been like, I need to do this. I need to do this. But I'm not doing it. That's the thing. And it wasn't, how should I put this? The pre-unit me would have found reason to piss and moan at coaching. Because let's face it, as I've explained in another video, that's exactly what I used to do. And like, oh, fuck, coaching, blah, blah, blah. They're not helping me. But post-unit me was like, no, you asked for a consensus from all the coaches. You got the consensus. The consensus was, no, you should not be doing this. For one, I asked coaching, which in of itself was a huge step for me because as I told Ariel, I said, I am the worst one when it comes to asking for things. I am the worst one when it comes to asking for help. Because I'm always afraid of rejection. And, it's hard for me to come right out because, again, if I ask for something, I'm worried I'm going to be rejected. But this time I made a conscious effort of asking all the coaches and saying, I need a consensus from coaching. Can you please give it to me? And I was open about it, which is, for me, that's a huge step. I'm picking up groceries going, they're not lying. You suck at these things. You don't necessarily suck at them, but you should know how to do a plow after a year and a few months. You know how it's supposed to be done. Why can't you do it? Your knee drops are inconsistent. You need to be working on them more. Scrimmaging, you're getting better at taking a hit in a scrimmage situation. You're going to have to learn how to do that. And the only way you're going to do that is by practicing, the being in scrimmages. And then the last one, 27.5, it's just like, Jesus Christ, you've been dragging this shit out forever. And it always kept coming back to the same thing. You're not doing this. You're not taking the responsibility to get this done. And Ida and I spoke a little bit afterwards. Once I got back, we spoke later in the afternoon, and I said, I think part of my problem is I'm just not pushing myself to get this done. That's how I'm viewing it, is that I am not pushing myself to get this done. And that's the problem. The problem isn't coaching. The problem is the player. The coaching has already given me all the tools. They have. I'm probably not so much incapable of doing it, but I'm unwilling to do it. And that goes back to the whole title of, the post today. Comfort zones. I've gotten into this comfort zone of showing up and doing the drills and doing other things that are asked of me. Not necessarily always doing them well, but doing them. I mean, I know I'm not the fastest, but why am I not the fastest? And I'm going to touch on this in a second because something happened, which is changing my mind. So why am I not the fastest? My plows suck. Well, why do they suck? I know how to do a plow. Why can't I do it? That's the thing. And 27.5. I've had people tell me in doing it, you should be comfortable. For me, comfortable means I'm going to have an average time of around 5:30, 5:27, 5:25. That ain't going to cut it. I'm still like a second short on every lap. And it doesn't sound like much as, a second. A second per lap. It doesn't sound like much. But it is. It's the difference between, it's the difference between skating 25 laps of the track in 5 minutes and skating 27 laps of the track in 5 minutes. It's that second a lap makes up them two freaking laps. It really does. You wouldn't think it would, but math doesn't lie. I'm sorry. That extra second of lap really makes up those 2 laps with just a touch of cushion at the end so that when they call 5 minutes, you're like, 20 feet beyond the start finish line. Because when you're at 27.5 speed, because I figured this out, you're actually covering about 16 and a half feet per second. Yeah. You're covering almost 1 2/3 hash marks. On our track, we have hash marks. Each hash mark is 10 foot apart. There's 18 hash marks around the track, 180 and a half feet. You're skating the diamond. It's 180 feet. So in 1 second, you should be, if you're starting at 1 hash mark and you're going at speed, in the next second, you'll have passed 1 of the hash marks and be like 1/3 of the way or almost half the way to the other hash mark. That's how fast you have to be going. I figured this all out. You know me. I miss math. Yeah. I'm going to figure this shit out. So anyway, comfort zones. And let me diverge to something that happened on Wednesday night. We had practice. Actually, it was a pretty good practice. I liked it. I actually felt it was one of my best practices in quite some time. And we started out, we did like a 40 and 10, which for the first time in a very long time, I actually got into the pack. I started out toward the back and kind of moved into the middle of the pack so that I was skating with people around me. And I really thought about the fact I should, next time we do like a 40 and 10, I should throw on my GoPro just so you can see what it's like when you're going at 40 and 10 speeds. to have like 20 people around you while you're skating. It's really kind of interesting. And one of the things I noticed was normally I'll skate up toward the front and keep track of laps. But this time, all I did was I'm still counting off laps on my counter. But I was concentrating on the back of the person in front of me. So the entire time I'm focused on where they're at and keeping with them and able to reach out and touch them, but at the same time, not run them over, not fall back from them. And it made for a rather interesting skate. I didn't feel as tired or exhausted. I think that's because I was just concentrating on the person in front of me and sort of blanking my mind and doing the laps and listening to the sound, which is really kind of funny because as you're going down the straightaway, you can hear, everybody pushing off. And then as you go into the turns, you hear, as everybody goes around the turn and are gliding around the turn, But one of the things we did was we were doing a lot of stuff with takeoffs because you have to be able to take off quickly. One of the things we have to do, and I've already done that, is you have to do one lap of the track from a standing start in under 13 seconds. And my fastest was I did an 11.3. And so we're on takeoffs, and we had two lines going, and we were with a partner. And it was basically, you could race your partner if you wanted to. And my partner was one of the certified skaters. Her name is Rockabilly Knockout. We all call her Billy because we have another person who's Rocky Galboa. So we call her Rocky, and we call Rockabilly Billy. And even as I started laughing. And I said, okay, Billy, don't worry. You're going to beat me. And we had to skate down to the pivot line, which is 30 feet. So you're basically pushing as hard as you can. It's like I'm chasing the jammer. And we took off, and she didn't beat me. I kind of stuck with her the whole time. And I knew that what I was doing was I get my left toe stop down, and I was getting a hell of a push off on my left foot. And then I was really kind of digging in and pushing hard with both my feet, both my legs. So we come back around and we line up again. This time I'm on the inside. This time she's on the outside, and we do it again. And again, it's the same thing. I'm kind of keeping up with her. She might have been just slightly faster, but when we got to the pivot line, the amount of separation was not that great. It wasn't noticeable that much. And as we came around, she even said, wow, your takeoffs have gotten so good like that. And I was like, thank you. I was really impressed. And I noticed later I was doing the same thing with another skater who I know is like significantly faster than me. And on takeoff, while she was beating me to the pivot line, she wasn't beating me by that much, maybe at most like an arm length, which is good. And one of the things I analyzed as I was going down the track with her was that, push is a step. So push, that's a step. That's two steps, So you push with your right or left or whatever. You push with one leg, you push with the other. That's one step. And it felt like for every two steps she was taking, because she was like, ting, 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 and some people do that when they take off. I was like pushing hard and getting down to the pivot line in like 2.5 or 3 steps. Which meant I was kind of digging in and just using my thighs, using all the power I had there to push myself. Because I've got strong thighs. There's a lot of power there. I even got out and jammed. We had scrimmages where we were running, jammers against the walls and stuff like that. And I went in and was the jammer at one point. Actually, we had 6 people on a team, so you had the opportunity to do like 5 jams in a row, which I did. And then finally, I came out and somebody said, "Who wants to jam?" I just spit all over my screen. And I said, "Yeah, I'll be the jammer." And I took it and I put the panty on, and I went up against our teammate T, who is an experienced jammer, and she's like, "Come on, we're gonna jam together." And I was like, "I'm gonna knock you on your ass, T." I said, "That's the only way I'm gonna beat you. I'm gonna knock you on your ass right off the bat." And we both laughed, and but she was like, so I did get through the wall. I got knocked out at one point. She got through. She's experienced. She knows what the fuck she's doing. I don't. But the thing of it was, I was taking what I knew about jamming, some of the moves, and I was doing everything I could to use some of those moves, like pushing people to the outside or getting on the inside and pushing against people. And then when I finally saw an opening, I just took off. And I mean, I really dug in and got low and just started like speed skating my way through the hole. I just like, boom, I got down as low as I could and just started pushing off. And I noticed again, one of my teammates, she saw me and she started to come after me. And I was, going fast enough at that point that she wasn't going to catch me. And I will say, probably a few months ago, if we had been doing that same drill, she would have caught me without a problem. And I even got complimented. I just said, "Hey, I saw you out there. You were, jamming. You were doing pretty good." She goes, she told me later that when we were talking about what was going on with the scrimmages, she said, "I saw stuff on Wednesday night I really liked." I did too. That was one of the things that was really good about it. But the thing of it was, for some reason, I was in a weird mindset that night. I'd come in, I usually have a lot of anxiety when I come into practice. And I was of the mindset that no expectations tonight. I'm just going to do my shit. That's it. And I felt really comfortable on my skates for some reason. I was actually at one point, I was up on my toe stops, twisting back and forth, like la, 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 dancing back and forth like that. One of my teammates, she's looking at me. She goes, "That's how you break an ankle." She's like, "What are you doing?" "That's how you break an ankle." And I was like, when I went to Satan's little helpers clinic, she was doing this. If Satan can do it, why can't I? But yeah, it was like, I was up jamming around, dancing back and forth on my, toe stops, doing that stuff. I felt really good. So part of me was like, yeah, you can do this when you decide to do it. And this is the whole thing with comfort zones. You get into comfort zones, be it whatever. And it's a bitch to get out of them once you're in. That was one of the things that my friend was saying to me Wednesday during lunch. She wants to she'd always wanted to do derby. She's a little bit anxious about it because you basically have to come out of your comfort zone to do it. And her biggest concern was, how do your teammates handle this? And I said, everybody's cool. Don't worry about it. I says, coaching will take care of you. The players will take care of you. No one's going to beat up on you. No one's going to be mean. No one's going to laugh at you. You don't have to worry about that because we've all been there. Nobody comes out derby ready, from the womb. You're not born with a pair of skates and a jammer panty on your head. It doesn't happen. It's a talent. It's a skill. Just to come out for recruitment night, you got to come out of your comfort zone. You really do. And progressing has always been getting out of your comfort zone and moving forward. It's the only way. And lately, when I was analyzing this, because as always, I analyze all my shit, I was like, you're in your comfort zone. You've been comfortable for too long thinking, well, I can do this. Why aren't I? Well, you aren't, because you need to work on these 4 things. And until you get out of your comfort zone and push your ass to do them, you're going to remain in another world of, I can scrimmage with my team, but I'm not permitted to go out and scrimmage with anyone else, and I'm not permitted to play. And again, that's not on coaching. That's on you. It reminds me of a scene I've actually been thinking about with Annie in the current novel whenever I get back to writing, which I hope to do within the next week or so. I've been kind of taking a break on it because a lot of things have just been on my mind and I haven't been writing. And there will be a scene in there where she's talking to her coaches because, she's a Derby girl now. And it relates to how Annie is starting to cope with something that she's having trouble with. Now, if we go back to the first novel, the A for Advance, we know that her first night in Advanced Spells, she had a lot of anxiety, and we find out why. As a kid, she concentrated so much on sorcery. I want to learn how to kill somebody. Basically, that was Annie. She never bothered with the short, simple stuff. I mean, there were a few simple spells she could do, but like levitation, she couldn't levitate something simple, and she was having a problem with it. And we learned that Annie gets anxious in environments, especially around other people, where she's trying to do something and she can't do it. She starts getting anxious. And part of this goes back to the fact that Annie is very goal-oriented, let's put it that way. As Carrie pointed out, I think you're going to do great as a Derby player because you never go into anything without the attitude that you're going to be the best at it. If it's something you want to do, you go into it with the attitude you're going to be the best at it. She didn't do that with flying. Why? She didn't really want to be a flyer. But when she learned she had the flight gift and she wanted to fly, she threw herself into it. It was like, I can do this. And it was a good thing that whenever she did do a lot of practicing, if it wasn't her and Carrie, it was Isis and her, or all 3. She didn't have to worry about others being part of it. But there will be a scene in there where she's having trouble doing something that other people are picking up, and she's not picking it up, and she's beating herself up over this shit. She's getting a lot of anxiety over it. And one of her coaches will pull her aside and talk to her and tell her, it's all about getting to a certain point and then moving beyond that level. It's getting to a certain point and moving beyond that level. And in order to move beyond that level, you have to get out of your comfort zone. You have to say, I got to push myself, and this is going to hurt. But you have to leave that comfort zone behind and move onward. I mean, it's the same thing that happened with my transition. You get to a certain level and then you move to the next step. And one of the things her coach will say to her is, remember, the only person who can hold you back is you. And I repeated that to myself when I was out shopping Thursday morning. The only person that's holding you back from doing this shit is you, is me. That's it. You're the one holding yourself back because you're not pushing yourself to get this done. And that's something that I probably would have never said prior to going into the unit back in April. Because as I've stated in another video, it was always easier for me to find the other assholes who were holding me back. when in reality, I was the asshole. You know? And that was one of the things I kept saying was there were no lies in that evaluation. You know what 4 things you got to do, and you're holding yourself back. That's it. Comfort zones are a bitch. You run into comfort zones. I mean, I ran into comfort zones like I was just alluding to when I was transitioning. You do run into those because the next step is always going to be scary. One of the things my gender therapist said was I was probably the most clinical of any of her patients over a 30-year period of time because she said I'd move to a step, get everything set, and when I was ready to move on, I'd move to the next step. It was always moving to that next step that was scary as shit. Because you get comfortable being somewhere, and then you have to go on, and then you have to go on again, and then you have to keep going on, and you keep going on. It's a whole process. But yeah, it was like the first time I had to go out in public as myself. I mean, public in daylight. Man, yeah, I was like, you don't know how scary that is. It was frightening. Nowadays, I don't give a shit about it. But back in the bad old days of 2014 when I was doing it, man, the first few times I went out in public, it was just like you just swallow your heart and hang on for dear life, and you do it. I got through that. I had to push myself out of my comfort zone to do that, and I did. Writing has a lot of comfort zones. I don't know how many times I've stated before that I'll go to write. There are certain things that I've written that as I'm coming up to that point where I'm going to write it, you start getting that sinking feeling in the pit of your stomach. Oh my God, this is going to be a bitch, you know. I don't know if I can write this or not. And you got to push yourself out of that comfort zone. Probably one of the biggest ones, because I knew it was coming for years, was writing about Annie and Carrie's sexual escapades. You know, I had known before even writing the first novel, A for Advance, what had happened that night at the Sea Sprite Inn. I knew what had happened. And I knew eventually I'd have to write about it. And I did in the Sea Level book. And I knew where I was going to write about it in the Sea Level book and how it was going to come up. And for like a year, more than a year, I'd rehearsed that scene in my head of how I was going to write it, where you find out that, yeah, you've got 12 and 13-year-old kids coming up, and now Annie's 14, Carrie's still 13, but they're kind of sexually active with each other. And when it came time to write it, I was like, oh my God, now I got to do this. And how is this going to get taken? You know, it was comfortable. You could allude to everything. You could allude to shit. You know, there were a couple of clues here and there that something was probably going on, but nothing was explicitly stated. And this was going to be a case of now I have to explicitly state it. Not only did I have to do that, but I had to write where the chief medical officer of the school is telling the 2 girls, because at that point Carrie's female or has a cis female body. We haven't really determined gender yet, but we're getting there. About her first sexual act, first time doing it. And how she's basically saying, don't feel ashamed about sex. It's healthy you guys actually have a rather mature attitude towards sex. And also that you're monogamous, you're not all over the place. You're showing a healthy regard for sex. But writing that, oh my God, I had a lot of anxiety leading up to the point where I actually had to write that, because I had to get out of my comfort zone and say, okay, now I've got to do this, got to talk about this shit. And once you push through that, it's not as bad. But yeah, really, it was tough to write. There's a couple of things that I've said before. It's tough to write that. You have to be willing to step out of your comfort zone and do it. And Derby's the same way. I mean, like my one friend said, just showing up for recruitment night on Tuesday night, this upcoming Tuesday, is going to be her stepping out of her comfort zone. And it is. I mean, for most people, even if you can skate, the idea that you're going to learn how to do all these maneuvers and things on skates and learn how to handle being hit by other people who you in turn are going to turn around and hit. That's intimidating. It is when you think about it, you're learning how to block and run through a pack and basically get down and hit people if you have to get the job done. And my friend did say, it sounds a lot like field hockey. She played field hockey. Yeah, it is. It's like field hockey on skates and you're not carrying a big stick. But yeah, I told her it's a lot of it is just getting out of your comfort zone. And that's where I'm at right now. Is when I go back and think about my progression, it's always been lead up to a point, then you get comfortable with it. Then you go to the next point, get comfortable with that. You go to the next point, get comfortable with that. In the case of the last four things, I mean, one is partially due to the fact that I haven't done that much scrimmaging with the team, and I need more practice. But the other three things is bullshit. It has nothing to do with scrimmaging. It's me, And that's being in a comfort zone and being unwilling to push through. And in the past, I've been making excuses as to why I can't push through. I kept saying, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. Well, the truth is, I've kind of shown that I can do it. I mean, I did a lap from a standing start in 11.3 seconds. A 27.5 lap, flying lap, is an average of 11.1 seconds. So from a standing start, I was only 0.2 of a second off a 27.5 lap. Now, granted, that lap was ugly as fuck. Oh, it was. It was just like ugly. But I still did it. And then the other night when we were doing the takeoffs, I was like, I'm actually able to keep up with most of my teammates now on takeoffs. If I get it right and I push hard, I'm actually able to kind of keep up with them. So the speed is there. Why don't you just put it all together and do it? I understand the concept that goes behind a plow. You need to get your ass down. You need to get your knees together and your heels out, lean on your edges, and plow. That's it. It's that simple. Why am I not doing it? Because it's difficult for me. Well, why is it difficult for me? Because I'm not pushing myself to do it. And it made me think about something that I'd heard from the coach down in New York, Devour, who she says, when your muscles are hurting in your legs, she goes, that's because you're finally doing something right that you've been doing wrong for a long time. And now you're finally in the position of you're doing it right. She goes, once you've done it right long enough, your muscles are no longer going to hurt, because your body is now trained to do it right. And I've been noticing that some of the stuff I've been working on, I've been pushing toward the goal of getting certain things done. I've been coming home at night with muscle aches in areas that I hadn't been having them for quite some time. And I started to realize it's because I'm finally working those muscles to try to do something that I haven't been able to do before. And once you get to the point where you can do them, your muscles won't hurt any longer because now your body's doing them right. So, just like Annie, the only person holding me back from succeeding is me. And need to do it. I basically am looking at if I can get everything done in 2 months. And again, 3 of those things I should be able to check off by the end of this month. I really should. 27.5, if I can push myself to show the sort of speed I've been showing of late and to maintain that speed, I should be able to do that. November 4th is our next home game. Next 3 games are away. We have a game at the end of this month and 2 games actually in September. I don't anticipate being in any of those games. I'm just going to say that right now. I'm not aiming for those. That's not something that I'm like, I want to play in this game. No. I will probably accompany the team to the bouts, but I will likely not play. November the 4th is our penultimate home game. I want to play in that game. That's against York, against women that I know, women that I've worked out with, practiced with, and women who I respect. I respect them as much as I respect anybody on our team. It's going to be a hell of a game, and I want to be there. That's 3 months down the road. As a matter of fact, it's August the 4th today. So it's, September, October, November. It's 3 months down the road. If I can certify by the end of September, I can have my jersey ready for that bout. I can do it. You just have to get out of that comfort zone. You have to push yourself. Otherwise, 3 months from now, I do not want to be making another video going, well, I didn't make it again, because it's gotten to be old bullshit. And again, it's all because I have gotten to the point where I'm unwilling to push. So now, let's see what happens. As Ariel told me when we had our lunch, she goes, 27.5, you do it one time, that's it. Once you're done, you're done. Everybody else, once you get it, once you learn how to get that kind of speed, you'll keep it up. But I've actually seen that from other teams where some of the players I speak with in my Facebook groups will say, yeah, I did my 27.5 and I haven't done 27 laps since, because it's just not that important to me. But like so many people on my team, nearly everyone who has passed their 27.5, when we do like 5 minutes of skating, can usually skate 27 laps with no problem. I want to be one of those people. I want to be able to get out there and just like zip through like 27, 28 laps in 5 minutes. I want to be one of those people. But one of the things that she pointed out, and this was something that really started me going on this whole line of thought, was she actually asked, is it your intention to certify, play one game, and then get out? Because I've said before, I'd be happy if I just play one game. So she's like, is it your intention to certify, play one bout, and leave? I said, no. I said, I want to play. I want to play more than one game. I want to play a season. I want to play 2 seasons. I said, I don't know how many seasons I can play, though, because at my age. She goes, that's irrelevant. Don't think of it that way. She said, so you don't play this season. Maybe you don't certify until like the end of October, somewhere near the end of the year. Or maybe you certify the beginning of next year. She goes, so you don't play this year. If it's your intention to play no matter what, there's next year. So you play next season, and you play the season after that, and you play the season after that. You keep playing as long as you feel you can play. That's your goal. You've already put all this time into it. don't walk away. And that was what my other friend told me too. She says, you've put so much time into this. You're this close. Don't walk away. You know, it's not like you can't do it. It's that I'm unwilling to do it. And I need to get out of the unwilling and move it over to willing. So that's my observation of myself. And it's only taken a little over 50 minutes to get here. But that is the observation. And it's also an observation I wouldn't have made before going in the unit. I wouldn't have made before coming to grips with my mental illness. Because again, you know, before, it was easy to lay the blame at the feet of other people. But you know, that's not true. It never has been true. There's no blame to lay at anyone's feet except your own. It's like writing. No one's born a writer. You have to train yourself to be a writer. And the way you train yourself to be a writer is you write every day. I used to do that. I mean, I've fallen out of that habit. I used to do it. I did it every day for like 5 years. It's the same way with Derby. No one is born a Derby player. You have to learn how to do it. For some people, it's easier than others. It's just like writing. For some people, it's easier than others. They took to it easier. For some of us, it's a struggle. But eventually, you get to the point where you're good enough that you can publish and people aren't looking at your work and tearing it apart because you sound like some sort of illiterate Yob. Same thing with Derby playing. You know. Nobody's born a Derby player. You train to become one. It's a sport. It's a team sport. And everybody is part of the link. And one of the things I want to do in Derby is I want to be a pivot, which means I've got to learn how to be a jammer if I want to learn how to be a pivot. That means I have to push myself harder. Before, I was unwilling to do that. I would just like, oh, I'm so tired. You know, you get tired. Yeah, you do. Jamming is a bitch. It's a cardio intensive bitch. But after Wednesday night, I felt really good. I was like, you know, you need a few more nights like that. You need to just remain confident on your skates and don't worry about mistakes and just let your body learn how to do this shit. And eventually you can go to coaching and say, I want to be a pivot. You know, that's where I think my strength is. I want to be a pivot on the team. And you work toward that. You do so by getting out of your comfort zone. Anybody, I mean, just about everybody can block. I won't say anybody can block. Anybody on a team can block. Red Rum Doll tells me all the time, you know, if Derby was easy, everybody would do it. It's not. But everybody learns how to be a blocker. I mean, you do. You have to. That's the fundamental of the sport right there, is being a blocker. Being a jammer, that's an entirely different beast. And I would love to be a pivot, which means I got to learn how to do both. That's what Lacey Knight said. If you want to be a pivot, you train to be a jammer too. So it's a goal I'm setting for myself. But you'll never get to that goal if you're happy with your comfort zone. So I have to go because I'm way beyond my comfort zone here. I've been talking, it's almost 55 minutes. I think this is like the longest video I've ever done on my own. So that's where I'm at. I'm in a happy place, even though I'm not scrimmaging tomorrow. In a way, I'm kind of relieved because I think I probably would have walked in there so nerve-wracking and anxious that I wouldn't have done much good. But that doesn't mean open scrimmaging is not that far off, because it all depends on me. That's how it's going to get done. It all depends on me. And if I can't do it, nobody's going to do it for me. Okay. So take care. Have a good weekend. And I'll see you next Saturday. Bye.